We're happy to be joined by Patriann Edwards, also known as the Fire Goddess, who is a performing artist, dancer, fire artist, and teaching artist. And she joins us to speak about work that she's been doing in the last 6 months. But even before we get into life within or during COVID, I want to get a little history on you before we get to that, though. How are you doing, Patriann?
I am doing fine. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Now, I want you to answer the question, why dance? Why get into dance in such a deep level, a formalized level? Because, you know, many people do things well, and you start doing it, and you do it on the side in addition to whatever else you're doing formally or to earn. But at the same time, that is not the route that you have gone. You've taken that deep dive into dance, and you went tertiary. You also did it at UTT, I believe. But why? What's the reason for that?
It's a passion, I would say, and it also stems from my family also being involved in the arts. My mother was a dancer. My grandmother was also involved in the Best Village or the Better Village program at that time. They belonged to more of the elders would have known of a group called Gasparilla All Stars. So my mother, my aunts, my grandmother, a lot of my uncles, one of my uncles, Claude Neptune, was also a member of that group. And the that was the birth. She there was a story of her dancing while she was pregnant with me. So I think that was actually the origination of where I am now.
And do you think is it that, I feel that is so important to have people who see the vision, who have the experience, because sometimes you want to do something that's a little different to what the family does, and they say, girl, you sure you want to do that? How you gonna make out? What happening with you? So how important is that support to you?
The support is very important. I have had times where I did not get as much support as I needed, but I always see the long vision. I always see the next 5 years, the next 10 years, or where I think dance could be, because it has worked in other countries and it could work in Trinidad and Tobago. So for me, support is very important, and I always encourage people to support dancers, support actors, support musicians, support people in the arts, because it's a passion that we have. Yes, some of us, they say dancers are athletes. I say creatives and cultural artists are athletes, because what we do, I don't think any normal human being could do it if they actually dive deep into it, into the way that we dive into it.
And one of the ways that you took that dive is going to school and dealing with it on a tertiary level. And I think I see some of that coming out in the language that you use with regard to some of the classes that you're dealing with and offering. And we'll get into that a little later. But being able to use language like history and dance, aesthetics of dance forms, Afro-traditional dance forms, as well as talking about the fact that classes are accompanied by music Afro-Indigenous at TNT to help participants get this rhythmic understanding of the form. Was it important to you to say, okay, well, I'm doing this to such a level that I'm going to tertiary level to be able to follow up, to dive, to undertake this passion and calling?
Yes, I believe so. Also, I believe that it's necessary for dancers to also expand their intellect. So you may have the physical knowledge of dance, but you need to understand, you need to have some sort of intellectual knowledge as well, because that actually adds to the physical knowledge that you may have. You may begin to understand the form more. You may discover other things in the history of the dance forms. You may see connections in other dance forms, and also connections to music forms, and also connections to movement-based forms. So I believe it's very important, and it's also important for the preservation of the dance knowledge, the dance history, the dance traditions. It's very important.
And I like the fact that you speak about connections, because one of the things I want to ask is that I saw you in Asari, I believe, for one performance. So in terms of like getting a broader scope, or saying, okay, well, I know this, but I'm going to learn something more in what I do. Is it important to have that kind of insider knowledge first, bringing that to the table and then learning more? Because sometimes people reach us and say, okay, well, I like dance and I want to learn this. Or how important was it to you to have that base? Or we talk about Neptunes, the All-Stars, now Neptune School for the Arts. to have that experience and that base going into a space like UTT to learn dance?
It was very important for me, and I would say that UTT expanded my physical, intellectual, and spiritual knowledge base of dance. So a dance like I was trained in Kathak by Guru Susan Mohib, and to understand Kathak and the aesthetics of Kathak actually strengthened my West African dance training, and also learning like other movement styles. Like I also learned capoeira. I was privileged to learn capoeira from Rondell Benjamin of War Academy and Chancellor Greenwich. That also strengthened my learning in other dance forms. So the connection is actually very, very important, and it actually, it expands your movement knowledge and your body awareness in other forms. So you get to discover things within yourself as a dancer, and also discover things as you move as a dancer, because we dancers also have self-discovery. It's a thing that people may not understand, but we have our own physical self-discovery as like, okay, I didn't know I could do this, but I could do it now. So we have that little journey.
And with regard to journey, and I like the fact that you call in some names and saying, okay, well, this person helped with this person taught me that. Is it that sometimes you have a special person who just kind of unlocks something, and because you said you may not like this, but then you realize, but wait now, possibly I was thinking about this a little differently, or doing it like this, it just makes it easier. Is that part of the self-discovery and that journey for you?
Yes, that is also part of the self-discovery, and I believe, and that's something I always say, my teachers, they also, like each of them unlocked a different part of me. My most prominent teacher was Terry David. He's also the associate professor of Caribbean folk dance forms at UTT, and his knowledge and the way he has imparted, the way that he teaches, and his mentorship has unlocked a lot of things within me. And I'll also mention Miss Lucy Regis as well. She has done the same, and I have other lecturers, Nancy Herrera, LaShawn Prescott Mandira, Valkaran Singh. A lot of them, with the knowledge that I gathered from them while I was learning, they unlocked something different. So I unlocked something different in each form, and it added to my holistic learning of the traditional folk forms.
So where are you now, though, in terms of what it is you do? And because I hear you talk about Caribbean folk forms, West African, Kathak, capoeira, is there something that you lean on a little more heavily? Is there a sweet spot that you have, an area of focus? Where are you at with regard to that?
Well, I was split it in two. I have a sweet spot and I have an area of focus. While I love my traditional folk dance forms of Trinidad and Tobago, I love it with my whole heart. My sweet spot is West African dance. So many people in Trinidad would know me for West African dance. And I share that sweet spot with fire breathing. I've been in fire breathing since I was 14. So that's my zen spaces. But other than that, when I hear folk drums, our traditional folk drums here, that is it. That actually should be the third sweet spot. But my area of focus currently is traditional folk forms of Trinidad and Tobago, or the traditional dance forms of Trinidad and Tobago, because I believe that we need to apply more importance to preserving those folk forms, because a lot of the folk forms, even though it's evolving, the traditional forms itself is actually losing a lot of its essence, and we also have a lot of elders passing on. So I am adding to the many other persons who are trying to preserve the forms in our endeavors and in everything that we're doing.
And we want to talk a little more about curating, preserving the evolution of these forms. When we return, we're speaking with Patriann Edwards. Stay with us, we return with more. Welcome back. We are speaking with Patriann Edwards, the fire goddess. And Patriann, the piece of footage that we just took, that was with regard to an effort and initiative to help a master drummer. And I guess it kind of ties into some of what we were talking about in terms of making sure that value is accredited to things that are from Trinidad and Tobago, looking at the dance, making sure that we validate ourselves and the things that we're doing. Now, I believe, who's the name of the master drummer? Give us a little insight into that initiative, thanks.
The name of the master drummer is Master Drummer Brian Paris. Many may know him from working drumming for adding the San Fernando Creative Arts Center. He's one of those drummers that has been, we know, people will know of him, they will see him, but he's also very quiet. He's currently ill, and they are still currently raising funds to help offset his medical expenses. You can contact Miss Lucy Margaret Regis, or she's on Facebook as well, to if you are interested in giving donations. I believe there's also a box set up at the mayor's office of the San Fernando City Corporation, where you can go and you can also donate towards the worthy cause.
All right, thank you for that. And that brings us to the point of asking about the artist's life during the pandemic. Now, you've been busy, at least from the posts that I've been seeing. So what are some of the things that you've been involved in during this past 6 months?
Well, during this past 6 months, I have been accepted, or I have started the postgraduate diploma in arts, culture, and enterprise management. Thanks to Dr. Joanne Toll for inviting me on board to take that program at University of the West Indies. Also, I have been doing online master classes with many organizations, with Mojuba Dance Collective in last November. I have also taught with Bantikwa Arts during their Black History Month initiatives and celebrations with a lot of elementary and junior secondary schools in the New York area. I am also teaching at the Diamano Cora West African Dance Conference this weekend coming up, representing Trinidad and Tobago. And also, I was also one of the instructors at the Woodshed Dance Online Winter Intensive earlier on this year.
I like that, man. Just call thing, man. Call thing. Busy. But is it that you look for these opportunities and apply, or is it that people are looking for you or looking for the type of dance that you're involved in, or is it a mix of both? How does that connection take place?
I think it's a mix of both. It was birthed by it was birthed by me being a part of the Woodshed Summer Intensive last year, in which I was a scholarship awardee. And after that, I was also a scholarship awardee of the Kieran Dwayne Sargent Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago as one of their scholarship awardees to do a dance criticism, course with dance scholar Gregory King. And through these opportunities, I get to meet and network with people. And also people heard me speaking about Trinidad and Tobago culture. So they actually believe that they wanted to invite that into their space and that into their organization, because they believe that it belonged within that space and that diaspora of dances, which is also being taught around the United States.
And moving forward though, in terms of those master classes, how easy is it, or what are some of the challenges or differences? Because I can imagine, okay, well, you're right there with someone and they're saying, okay, no, instead of turning your foot out like this, you're turning in like this, you're pointing it this way, this is the line I want with your hand. Is that something that you're able to deal with in the same way virtually? Or how do you go about doing that?
It is sometimes difficult, but while I teach the form, I tend to also tell them have fun, because some people tend to be very intimidated when it's something new on their body, because they actually believe our traditional folk forms or traditional dance forms to be new on their body. But I always tell them that, you know, the dance family of diaspora dances has a connection and the aesthetics are very similar, but not the same, simultaneously not the same. So I tend to tell them have fun, I tend to slow it down to a half pace before I go up to the normal pace of whatever is being taught. And yes, I like to leave mics open. So I tell them ask questions. If it doesn't feel right on your body, you say something. If it actually makes you feel to do something else, you could add it to the conversation, and that's where the movement connection and the movement dialogue happens.
And in terms of that, the individual's feeling, okay, well, this is possibly a little new to my body, and then you explaining what you just did with us to them. What's some of the feedback that you get from people who take a class with you and, well, they have something to say after in terms of how it made them feel, what it is they learned, what it is they now know that they didn't, or they didn't think that they knew?
Most of the feedback we get is wow. I always get a wow. Other than that, people feel energized. The general consensus is that our traditional folk forms makes them feel energized. They have a how could I put it? They have an excitement to come to Trinidad and Tobago, because a lot of them, they don't know that these dances exist in Trinidad and Tobago. So many of them now, while learning the forms and getting these positive feelings and these positive influences on their body, they actually want to come to Trinidad and Tobago and visit the dance groups and visit also the drumming groups and see and experience the culture.
And when you say they didn't realize, okay, well, some of these forms exist, and I also know that at a point in time you were teaching classes a little more openly. I mean, this may have been pre-pandemic, but what are some of the things that you would have told people in terms of like an exercise, workout, in addition to learning forms? So was that West African or was that folk?
That was West African. And I would always encourage them to not overstress the body. Sometimes you might, you go to the gym and the gym trainer will tell you you're feeling pain to continue. Sometimes in dance, when you feel pain, it's to stop, it's to rest. And that's where injuries start to come in, and that's where you would have to go and do rehabilitation. You'll have to go and take time to rest and all these things. But I always say, while you exercise, you might do planking. I always encourage planking. Planking is very good for the body. While you may be doing planking or any other sorts of exercises or lunges, or stretches to stretch your muscles, always rest and drink a lot of water.
Now, I saw a piece of you, I may be mistaken, but I think I saw a piece of you in Lavway. What are some of the other things that you have on the cards coming up for you? And also, even before you get into that, you said you're going to be representing TNT this weekend coming. What is that about? And, well, once again, how did that come about?
The Collage the Africans is a West African dance conference that is normally held by Diomana West African Dance Company out of Oakland, California. It's held annually, where they bring in masters of the traditional forms from Africa and all over the world, the Afro-traditional forms, or mostly the African forms, to meet and teach within a specific space. So if we're not for COVID, I probably would not have been in Trinidad, but because it's virtually now, and for them, they believe it to be a plus. They actually have a masters from each of the countries actually teaching and presenting for workshops, master classes, panels this weekend, Saturday coming in.
Okay, now, just before, I want to get contact information from you for someone who would want to be able to get onto the Fire Goddess. But at the same time, how does it feel to say, okay, well, I'm at a level now where I can give these kind of classes, where I can have give this sort of representation for the forms that you are a part of. So it's not as though you're a little pia newbie and you now start again, but you're at a level where you're able to do this. How does that feel?
I feel contented, but I also feel that I have a responsibility on my shoulders to carry on what my elders have passed on to me, because all of my elders who passed on information to me are not alive. So I feel that I have a responsibility to make sure and carry on the tradition as accurately as I can, not adding any personal substance or any addition of any other forms, but I feel like it's more of a responsibility to the culture, to the traditional arts, to dance, to the movement-based arts, that carry on the dances, carry on the movement-based traditions, carry on the knowledge that was passed on to me by my elders who are alive and my elders who have passed on.
All right, so we want to thank you very much, Patriann, for spending the time with us, giving us a little idea of what is going on and how people can look out for some of these things. And we want to thank you for joining us this evening. I'm DK Ross on behalf of the entire news team. Have a good night.